Welcome to my channel, The Binge Eating Therapist. I'm Sarah, former binge eater turned psychotherapist. And today I want to talk to you about resistance. Resistance is going to show up anytime that we are trying to change, especially if we are trying to change well-worn patterns. And what pattern could be more well-worn than your relationship with food and how you feel about your body? Resistance is the impeding or stopping effect of one force on another. So we need two forces in order for resistance to occur. It takes two. But we're just one person. So what are these two forces? We tend to see resistance as this sabotaging energy, as our demons, as the part of us that just doesn't want us to get well. It's the part of us that just hates us. So it stops any progress we're trying to make. If you have ever, and I'm guessing you will have if you're watching my videos, decided that you are going to start a new diet or even a healthy eating regimen, and you start this and at some point you hit resistance, at some point it feels difficult or you don't feel like doing it, you start to have doubts. And you feel like this resistance to trying to take this healthy action is just the self-sabotaging part of you. And then maybe a few weeks later you're watching recovery content and you hear people like me going, well actually maybe it's this program that is increasing your compulsive eating, and ideally don't we want to make peace with ourselves as we are at the moment before we can move forward? And so you'll say, okay, this dieting or trying to control isn't working. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to try and feel peace with my body. And there's resistance to that as well. So it seems like whatever you're doing, whether you're going one way or another, there's going to be some kind of resistance or opposing force. So the first thing I want to say about resistance is it is you. Both sides of this, both forces are you. And this is just one of the things that makes it so complicated, or feels so complicated sometimes, to be a human being, is that we have opposing parts. So there's a part of me that really likes routine, and there's a part of me that doesn't like routine. And those two parts have to figure out how to get along. So for me it's about finding a middle ground where I have some routine, that I have just a little bit of a sense of predictability and stability, but not enough routine that I feel like I lose my freedom. So if we think about this in terms of food and control, there is a part of you that wants to be in control of your food choices. And there's a part of you that wants freedom and flexibility. You might even feel resistance to me saying that, because whichever one of those two parts you are more identified with at the moment is going to feel like you, and the other part you disregard. That's not me. I'm the one who wants the discipline. I want to be in control. I feel better when that's the case. And sometimes the part that seems to be in opposition isn't even in our thinking brain. In the most layman terms, neuroscience splits the brain into three parts. We have our thinking, cognitive, analytical, functioning brain. We have our emotional brain, which is also where our fight and flight is. And we have our primal brain, which takes care of our biological drives and needs. You may feel very firm in your cognitive, analytical mind that you do want to be in control. But your primal brain has other ideas, because it perceives that kind of control as restriction. And chances are that's what it's been when you tried to enforce it from that part of your brain and ignoring the primal brain, your primal signals and these basic biological needs. It's also why we can cognitively believe something to be true and not feel it. We feel the opposite because it's different parts of the brain. So in order for us to have the most cohesive experience of ourselves, those three parts of the brain needs to be calm, needs to be in some kind of homeostasis. We calm the primal brain by meeting our biological needs, by eating enough, by sleeping enough, by resting enough, all those kinds of things. We calm our emotional brain by creating safety, because our amygdala is here in our emotional brain, so we can go into fight, flight, freeze. And from that state, our thinking is skewed, because when that part of the brain, when our emotional brain is so activated, our decisions are made from that part of the brain and the cognitive functioning doesn't get a look in. So if you are somebody who just struggles with feeling safe a lot, maybe you're dealing with trauma, then I would recommend looking at some nervous system regulation exercises. My dear friend Steph and podcast co-host is launching a new course in January 2024, which is a somatic nervous system regulation course. looking at this stuff through the lens of binge eating and body safety. So if you are interested in getting some professional support, there's links below. I'm not an affiliate, I'm not getting commission, she's awesome and I know the course is going to be brilliant. But if you're thinking to yourself, how do I create more safety? When are the times in your life when you feel most calm? And it could even be that binging or food is a way of creating safety. When you are eating and filling yourself up with food, maybe you're watching television or on your screen, you get to just kind of like, you decompress, you just escape from the stresses and strains for a bit. How can you just reach in and take that behavior out of your life if you're going to be left feeling unsafe? So finding ways to feel calmer, whether that is through connecting with other people, whether that is through getting outside, whether it's moving your body, whether it's curling up under a heated blanket with a book. But finding ways to feel safe more often. I am not saying when you get a binge urge, go out for a walk, because chances are by the time the urge is here, you're already feeling unsafe, like your cognitive thinking is impaired, which is why that kind of advice is often unhelpful for a lot of people. So these are things to consider and ways to look after yourself outside of your binging behaviors. Binging is a sign that something is dysregulated in your life. Now that can be a biological dysregulation, it can be an emotional dysregulation, it can be a thought dysregulation. So by just focusing on trying to stop the behavior without addressing the underlying drives to it, probably isn't going to work. And I think this is why so many people get stuck in this cycle thinking, I can't stop this behavior, because you're trying to stop the behavior by trying to stop the behavior. But I digress. So we need to create safety in the primal brain, safety in the emotional brain, and then we need to consider our thoughts and what thoughts may or may not be serving us. We have the capacity to notice our thoughts, to go, oh, I'm thinking this. Who is the I that knows what you are thinking? We have this capacity, this higher self capacity, however you want to think about it, it's consciousness. And there are so many conflicting beliefs in our mind as well, because you have the beliefs that are socially conditioned into you. You have the beliefs that are your conclusions based on your experiences of life. And in our thinking mind, we have our beliefs about meaning, and that's where we make our meaning. Like, what is important about life? What makes me valuable? What makes me value other people? And a lot of those kinds of beliefs get overshadowed by all the noise of our conditioning. So we need to get to the part of ourselves that can think beyond our conditioning, the thoughts, the things that come from us, not things that we are just introjecting from the world. And we do that by taking time to be with our mind, to be with our thoughts, to notice them. Some people do this through meditation. Some people might just go for a walk. It could be journaling, but until we pay attention and look for ourselves what is going on in our minds, even watching videos like this, you are trying to take my thoughts and my view of this and make them your own. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big fan of reaching for resources outside of ourselves. That's why I create them. But if you don't take this and bring it into you so that you mull it over and you're like, okay, what makes sense? There might be things I've said that you have resistance to. Resistance isn't necessarily wrong. Sometimes we feel resistance because something just isn't true for us, or it just doesn't relate to us. But what often happens when we feel resistance is we try to fight it, or we try to ignore it, or we fall into a state of despair and defeat because we just think, it's beaten us. I'm the loser here and the resistance has won. And so we then resist our resistance. And so we keep layering it and we stay in confusion. And what we need is clarity. And in order, when we are calm and our mind is clear, we can see and we can understand. I've had the odd comment on my videos where people will say, it's all very good information, but you're not telling us what to do. I'm just here to offer you some thoughts, some musings, some possibly different perspectives. That's it. That's my job. I offer this here, and then it's up to you whether you take it and what you decide to do with that. And one of the reasons for that is I'm very resistant to being told what to do. But yes, there are moments when I want somebody to just tell me what I need to do. But a lot of the time I experience that resistance, or that resistance comes along eventually. And I don't think it's the great advice that someone gives us that changes our lives. I think it's the things we realize for ourselves, which is why I'm always encouraging people to spend time with yourself, getting to know yourself, But you have to do that from a compassionate place, otherwise you'll tumble into a well of shame. And I know I'm talking about all this in terms of resistance, but another way I talk about it a lot is in terms of conflict. So if you're left feeling a little bit confused after this video and going, what? You're not the only one. But that said, go and watch this video here on conflict. It's a good one.